Hey everybody, welcome to the 1804 show, chapter 2. I'm your host, Dollar Will, and this is another episode of 1804 History. Before I start, I just wanted to give a moment of silence to my former co-worker, former friend, Raz Marcellus, who had passed today. Okay. Yeah, so tonight I'm going to discuss a murder that occurred on August 23rd, 1989 in a neighborhood in Brooklyn called Bensonhurst. And by looking this up, I was able to look at it from both angles and hear from different sides and stuff like that. And just by my research, a lot of it was media manipulation, corruption, expulsion, and just so quick to vilify one of our own, which they always do. But this was a child. This was his kid who was only 16 years old. It's just sad that a lot of people don't know about this, don't even know that this happened. But thanks to HBO Max to have a documentary about it, I was able to watch it. That was one of my sources for this episode, and looking up interviews from the family, from the girl who got accused, looking up Al Sharpton, looking up a little bit of everybody. But it still doesn't change the fact that a child was killed, being at the wrong place at the wrong time. But he didn't know, or he didn't expect what was going to happen to him. He was just going to look for a used car that was for sale, just like any teenagers would do when they get their driver's license. He wanted to get a car, a 1982 Pontiac Firebird. And he was supposed to go with his other brother and a couple of more friends, so they could watch each other backs, because they wasn't supposed to be in that area. But he wanted to go before it got too late. So they went and caught the train to this neighborhood and got off, went upstairs, and walked the streets of Bensonhurst. And little do they know that an ambush is waiting for them. So the story goes that allegedly the girl, Gina, told her boyfriend Keith that some black guys was coming into the neighborhood to beat up the locals. And they all gathered up, got baseball bats, lead pipes, guns, and armed themselves for this attack that was bound to happen. But little do they know, it wasn't the truth. So 10 people approached Yusef, his friend, and his brother, thinking that these was the black guys. And 10 of them became 30 of them. And they chased them into a block and approached them with bats and stuff. And they were beaten up. And moments afterwards, 2 shots ring out. Yusef gets hit in the chest twice, close blank range, and immediately falls to the ground. And then he passes out. He gets taken to the hospital where he is pronounced dead at the age of 16 years old. And this is pretty much was the first incident that it led to 20 marches. This was very tragic, heartbreaking, and really it took days for the city of New York to hold this neighborhood accountable for what they did, because they were just trying to paint their narratives like Yusef was dating the girl Gina in a neighborhood and paid for it with his life. And that wasn't the case. They never knew each other. They never bumped into each other. It was just mistaken identity. And this was a good kid. Had good grades. He wanted to go to college to be an engineer. Never got the opportunity. So for a person who has been through loss, who has experience being brotherless, I can fully relate to this and comprehend the pain and the anger, losing someone very untimely. And we just need to understand that black men deserve to get old, to live long lives like everybody else, man. And it's just unfortunate because I have a 16-year-old niece, and I couldn't imagine getting a phone call or getting a knock on my door about a police department saying that my niece is gone. And I would lose my mind. There would be no justice. There would be no arrest. I'm going outside and I'm going hunting for whoever did this to my loved one, and nobody will stop me. And this is the thing that Tupac was talking about in the Indiana Black Expo, how they're taking dudes out younger than me, man, and we ain't doing shit. And I can understand that people want to see the murderers of their loved ones arrested, convicted, and found guilty of their crimes, but 9 times out of 10, it's going to be an acquittal. Because this justice system isn't for us. It never was made for us. Luckily, we have prevailed, but at the end of the day, we have to realize that, you know, we are always going to be second-class citizens in a country that never favored us in the beginning or in the first place. And we have to realize that, because not only we're considered criminals, hooligans, juvenile delinquents, but we was considered savages. And this kid was killed, and they was more mad about the marches than the injustice. You know what I'm saying? And I just sit back and I think about what was going through his head. You know, this is pretty much was the first time he was out of his neighborhood. You know, they wasn't taught or explained about racism. He was just going to go look for a vehicle and thinking that he was going to come back before it got too late. And he meets his demise, not even in an area that he was familiar with. And all people can do and focus on, well, what he's doing in that neighborhood. And I know that people who never lived in New York or never visit New York would understand, but I was able to live in New York for 6 months, and I knew I knew where to go and where not to go. I remember I did walked in an Italian neighborhood, and I was just so mesmerized on how clean it was, and no graffiti, no broken glass, no littering. It was such a like a paradise a little bit. Just how they kept everything so organized and so neat. But I was happy that nothing happened to me. Nobody harassed me. Nobody beat me up or anything like that. But it was cool. And I remember walking into this pizzeria. And I'm talking about in Utica, New York, if y'all don't know what I was talking about. But in Utica, New York, I remember walking into this pizzeria because at that time I was looking for a job, you know, walking different areas looking for work so I can help my auntie and stuff. So I remember walking to a pizzeria and going by the movies and stuff like that. You would think that you going to get harassed, you're going to get beat up for being in their neighborhood. But the guy's name was Tony. I remember that. And I asked him, were you hiring and stuff? And he was like, yeah. So he asked me, you know, where you from? And I told him I'm from Saginaw, Michigan. He like, Saginaw, Michigan? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, kid, you know, normally I wouldn't consider this, but here's an application. And I filled the application out, turned it into him. he never called me back. And I think, now I can reflect that he was protecting me. It was for my safety that he didn't hire me. But I'm glad that he gave me a chance to even fill out the application. You feel me? And this is not like a disrespect towards anybody. I'm just here telling a story. I'm here telling about what we face in this country. And I'm not trying to get or make anybody feel uncomfortable. But I have a job to do. I feel like somebody needs to tell the truth instead of fabricating events and narratives that doesn't apply, doesn't resonate with our people. And just looking at, footage, because this happened almost 34 years ago. I was literally 1 year old when this happened. I was born January 8th, 1988. So I was 1 year old when this happened. And that wasn't that long ago. And him being 16 years old when that happened, Yusef would have been 49 years old if he would have been alive today. Almost 34 years was robbed from him. We just got to think about just how much time is that of someone being robbed of human life. He never got the opportunity to graduate from high school. He never got the opportunity to go to college. He never got the opportunity to have kids, to accomplish his dream of being an engineer. Like, I sit back and I think about how many people I have outlived, and I don't even be sad anymore. I don't even be depressed anymore, because once you really realize how many people you outlived, you just find new sense of gratitude, appreciation. Like, life ain't so bad anymore. Here I am complaining about my blues, my highways and byways, and a kid life get taken away for doing absolutely nothing. And here I am at 35 years old, was able to experience things and go through things, evolve, grow, mature. And this kid didn't get the opportunity. So I just try to live and look at things from a broader perspective, and it's still going on to this day, and one thing I can say, I was wrong about Al Sharpton, because he took on this task free. He wasn't charged for his services for these marches and protests. So my thoughts and my former remarks and comments about Al Sharpton, I apologize for those, because, I didn't know. And he has helped a lot of black folks, man. A lot of low-income families and a whole lot of people who didn't know what to do, from going through these type of injustices and senseless murders of their loved ones. He didn't take a dollar. He did it to gain national attention for the case and for these victims and stuff. So I thank you, Al Sharpton, Mr. Reverend Al Sharpton. Whatever else you did, you know, that's none of my business. But I would say for this instant, I thank you for being the person that helped us along the way and gotten us a lot of justice. But this, excuse me, but this case really exposed the racism in that neighborhood. Because at first, you know, they was hoping that this went away. They was hoping that this didn't escalate any further, that it was going to die down, people was going to forget about it and go on with the rest of their day. But it was Al Sharpton, it was the family, it was his brother, and then their neighbor / friend who led the protests 20 days straight and 20 times, pretty much. So this was going to get some attraction. And I look at these crime scene photos of Yusef and just the fact that his eyes was open when this happened. Just sick. It's sick that people didn't show no empathy for this child, for this kid, for this teenager. And they wonder why we are very cautious about people, the media, and etc. They wonder why we alert and we say the things that we say, because when we get hurt, when we get murdered, they will vilify us. They will pick or find any photo that we take that we was probably at a party, or we was probably young, or we was probably just, you know, on some BS or whatever. And they would make that the main photo in the news. And paint us as this criminal, this gangster, this drug dealer, drug smuggler. And we wasn't even remotely to that. It's just scary. You know, the hardest part of being a black man is worrying if you're going to make it home that night. You got to worry about police. You got to worry about niggas. You got to worry about everybody. White supremacists, everybody. You got to worry about everybody. And I just try to be a good role model, but it's really hard when you have your own people that want you gone. Your own people terrorize you because you don't, I would say you don't enable their behavior. You will be considered a threat from all sides. And we all are victims of the same thing, the same problems in this country. We don't support each other like that until somebody is killed. We don't give people their flowers enough, man. We don't give people, they just do. You know, how come it takes to have somebody die for people to tell someone how they really feel about them, that they love them. How come somebody isn't here to respond to that? And that's what hurts me the most. I'm not perfect. You know, I'm just like any other human being. I have my angels, I have my demons, but I have a good heart. I have supported black businesses. I have supported anyone that has a dream and has a goal, that's ambitious, purpose-driven. I never asked for anything in return except respect and reciprocation. But you know, it's just what goes on when you're doing business. I don't take things personal. I try not to take things personal. But if anything, I just want people to understand that this could happen to you. You're not the exception. Something can happen to you or somebody in your family that this can happen to. And one thing is concerned is, if it happens to you, then it can happen to me. And it can happen to them. It can happen to anyone. But let me go back to the story. I don't mean to go into a tangent. But two teenagers who led the mob and Chase Hawkins were tried separately. Joseph Fama, the man who fired the shots that killed Hawkins, was convicted of second-degree murder on May 17, 1990. The other man defended in the case, Keith, was acquitted on May 18, 1990 on murder charges and manslaughter charges, but convicted of 12 lesser charges, including riot, menacing, discrimination, unlawful imprisonment, and criminal possession of a weapon. The acquittal of Keith on the most serious charges led to further protest marches through Bensonhurst, led by Al Sharpton. So, the only person really who the only two people that really got in the lesser charges, because 8 men was tried, but 2 people who got the most harsher charges was Joseph, who was charged 32.5 years in prison, and Keith, the boyfriend of the chick, Gina, was pretty much received a 5.5 year to 16 years in prison for his involvement. But I would say that the good thing about this was how the community came together, how people from all over the world, all over the entertainment industry, like Spike Lee, came to his home and paid his respects, and Nation of Islam did security. Al Sharpton and local civil rights leaders came and lent their support, and this is what we need. I just wish that it would happen more often, but you know, gotta think realistically sometimes, but we just have to understand that we have to be there for each other and help each other and keep these people memories alive. It was a quote that his mother said in a documentary, and she said her son was destined for great things. And I just want to be able to really pick my words here. Sometimes our purpose is to pass, and our purpose is to die. So people will know who we are. And sometimes in death, people can make such a huge impact on the world. Well, if our plans isn't bigger than God's plans. Sometimes you can be too good for this world, and I would say that our lives are already written, and that God will call us home whether we're ready or not. But we should never question God. Here, I'm a person that used to question him about my brother and my dad and my cousins and the people I love that's no longer here. I don't question God anymore. I just let God be God, man. You know, it hurts. It's unfortunate when people we love passes away, but we all have a mission. We all have a purpose. It was his destiny. Whether it happened the wrong way, it was his destiny. Because now he's immortalized in his neighborhood, in the city of New York, the state of New York, in the United States of America. And he's remembered by millions of people from that era, and even people that's now finding out about him. But I just want to say rest in peace to the young man by the name of Yusef Hawkins. Your death wasn't in vain, and you know, you really impact me. How much of a good person you were, and how much of a good heart that you have. And your death wasn't in vain. And Spike Lee made a movie about the racial intentions of this and many others who have written songs, and Public Enemy, and Coogee Rap, Brand Nubian, Tupac. So he made an impact. He had morals and just a good kid. Now his face is planted all over the community. When you walk by, you will see his painting, you will see his picture all over the place because of who he was and what he stood for. And this is why we have to give people their flowers while they're here. Quit trying to vilify everybody. This was a senseless murder. This was terrorism. When you look at the marches, look at footage of those things, you will see Bloody Sunday, you will see civil rights protests, you will see Cicero, you will see these marches that's occurring on today. And nothing has changed. And people just really need to understand that. It ain't gonna change until some accountability take place, and we just need to get it together, because we don't got enough strength to keep pushing forward these same things, the same repeated cycles. Each generation, this happens. We don't got enough. We can't take it no more. But I'm gonna end this episode again. Rest in peace, Yusef. Rest in peace to my former friend, Raz. And thanks to everybody who tuned in tonight. I really appreciate you guys for your support. Just stay safe out here, guys, because it's crazy out here. So on that note, like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the 1804 Show Chapter 2. If you want to leave a donation to my Cashapp, $, the 1804 Show Chapter 2. And I'm out. Have a blessed day. Peace.